Mike McCarthy replacements if he gets fired is presented by the Fetch Rewards app. It's an app that allows you to earn points by scanning your receipts that you can then redeem for gift cards to your favorite stores or restaurants, Amazon, Starbucks, whatever place you like to eat out at. We will tell you more about the Fetch Rewards app here in a little bit. But first, as the Cowboys season ends in spectacularly disappointing fashion once again, the buzz around firing Mike McCarthy is back. The Cowboys unquestionably disappointed in the postseason this year. They did not live up to expectations, and they were penalized heavily all season long. Now, I'll make note, as we film this right now, Stephen Jones was asked, do you expect Mike McCarthy to, or are you confident in Mike McCarthy being your head coach next year? Which was not, is McCarthy your head coach next year? They answered it unclearly, and Stevens said, I'm confident in that, which isn't actually a formal finer answer. And so far, nothing yet from Jerry Jones. And what honestly bothered me the most coming out of that game is the systemic issue I saw from the penalties. There is a lack of accountability from this team. You got Dak Prescott up there saying, oh yeah, it's funny that the fans threw stuff at the officials. You got DeMarcus Lawrence, other Cowboys players, your leaders on this team blaming the officials throughout the year. I don't want that. It's one thing for me to complain and for you to complain. You got to take ownership, though, if you're the players. It didn't happen under Jason Garrett. Now, I don't want to go back to the Jason Garrett era, but I think that lack of accountability stems directly from your head coach. In fact, I know that it does. In the end, this team underachieved, and all I've heard are excuses. I don't appreciate that. Jerry was unhappy post-game because I think he thought this team was going to make some noise. Did not end up being the case. And that, make no mistake, folks, is profoundly disappointing. And why, even though I think it's a bit unlikely, I think there's a chance in the end that Dallas makes a move and moves on from Mike McCarthy. So should they? What do you want to do with Mike? F for fire him or K for keep? Sound off in the comments section. Now, we're about to break down some Mike McCarthy replacements. I got like some big-name guys, the guys you want, offensive minds, defensive minds, etc. Before we get to that, I want a real head coaching search outside of like one name that would be the exception to that rule. I want a real one because the last time that happened was Wade Phillips. If you decide, who we'll get to in a second, Dan Quinn's your guy, okay. But I can't just give him the job because continuing to promote from disappointment, I think it's just going to lead to more disappointment in the end. So I do want a real search outside of one guy, the Dallas Cowboys. So who do you want as the head coach? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. You can still put in McCarthy if that's the guy that you want. But if you get the ad break here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know who you want to hire as the Cowboys head coach. Let's talk about the two internal guys, the one who makes sense. Kellen Moore, first up here. The Denver Broncos sending down a group on Tuesday to interview both Kellen Moore and Dan Quinn. Now, the buzz entering the playoffs was, hey, Jerry loves Kellen Moore, but the past 2 months-ish, he's been bad. And I cannot get behind Kellen Moore as the head coach. Yeah, the upside might be there. The floor is a disaster. So I can't go with Kellen. Dan Quinn is the more intriguing name of the internal candidates. Now, I don't think you're keeping Dan Quinn unless you make him the head coach. I think somebody, Denver, is going to make him your next man up. Now, Quinn was easily the best coordinator overall across the season for the Dallas Cowboys. He also wasn't a great head coach in Atlanta. So that should raise some concerns, raise some red flags about, is he the guy that you want? This is why I want to do a full search, beyond just giving the job to Dan Quinn. I do think the players, especially on defense, love him more than the offensive guys and other guys love Mike McCarthy. Not a shot at Mike, not designed to be. That's a testament to the praise I'm trying to offer here for Dan Quinn. So would you make Dan Quinn the head coach? Type in A for yes or type in B for no. Let's tell you guys now about the Fetch Rewards app. This is a fun little app, guys, if you like to get free stuff. Instead of throwing away your receipt, download the Fetch Rewards app and scan it. It'll grab all the information that you need, and then you'll get points for whatever you're buying. Any store, any restaurant, it works. All your receipts, gas works as well. You'll get points. You can then take those points and redeem them to gift cards or for gift cards for any store, any restaurant that you want out there. It's free, guys, and we're going to hook you up with 3,000 bonus points if you use promo code Cowboys at chatsports.com/fetch. I will put that URL and the promo code high in the description and in the comments as well. Again, it is chatsports.com/fetch. The promo code is Cowboys. So again, check that out. It's a fantastic offer and free bonus points, free gift cards. What are you waiting for? All right, first, look at the crazy names. Look at these out of the way. The trade options, right? Because everyone was like, hire Bill Belichick, Mike Tomlin. Do not get your hopes up for Belichick, Mike Tomlin. That seems very unrealistic. I don't want to give you guys false hope on Sean Payton. The dream will never, ever die. I think it's a dream shared by Jerry Jones as well. I don't want to say, oh, it's going to happen, because it probably doesn't, right? But if you want to dream and acknowledge it's still a bit unlikely, that's the dream guy to keep an eye out for. When I mentioned earlier, except for one guy, do a real head coaching search, that's the guy I had in mind. Jerry loves Sean Payton. The infatuation has never gone away. It's always been there. It's always a rumor. But I don't want to hype it up as it's going to happen when there's a lot of moving pieces that would need to go your way for it to even hypothetically go down. Now, if it does, I mean, they fire McCarthy, we're going live, of course. So we're going to keep you covered on everything going on around the Cowboys, coaching rumors, potential Dan Quinn replacements. Maybe Kellen Moore gets hired somewhere else, potential replacement there. Sub if you have not already. Free videos every single day, and at this point, it's multiple times a day. YouTube.com/Cowboys TV. All right, outside names, former notable NFL head coaches, and we'll go a little more rapid fire on some of these. Jim Harbaugh. I'd be down. I don't think he's going to leave Michigan. If he does, I suspect maybe a team like the Raiders ends up landing him, or the Giants or Bears, and I don't know if Harbaugh and Jerry would be a proper mesh. Good word there, Jeremy. Thank you. Brian Flores, though, if you do fire McCarthy and do a real search, one of my first names on the list. I thought he did a great job in Miami. I know there are some whispers of him not getting along well with others. You got to check that out in your interview process and with your other, gathering information background stuff there. But Flores, I thought, did a better coaching job than McCarthy did the past 2 years combined over that 2 seasons. So, yes, I would have interest in Brian Flores. Doug Pederson, the former Eagles head coach. I know you're going back-to-back former Super Bowl winners, but I think Pederson's a good coach. I'd have interest on that one. I don't want these next 2 names as head coach. Mike Zimmer, I'm out. A lot of bad stuff came out of his time in Minnesota, that the media reports and whatnot. DC, have that conversation. Head coach, I think the game has passed him by from that perspective. Marvin Lewis, God no, please, I beg of you. I'd rather keep Mike McCarthy. The Cowboys interviewed him last time, part of their fake coaching search for Mike McCarthy. I don't want Marvin. I know he's tight with Steven. I acknowledge that. I can't. That's such a... As a guy who grew up with a bunch of Bengals family members who were fans of the Bengals, I can't do it. Now we're going to break down some offensive, defensive minds here in a second. But what is your preferred head coach style, target, mind, background's probably a good word there. Offensive or defensive? In a bubble, give me offense. Can't always have the bubble choice. So type in O for offense, D for defense. All right, offensive minds here. Brian Daboll, the Bills offensive coordinator. Of the offensive minds out there across the NFL, this is my favorite one. I thought he did a fantastic job with the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen gets a lot of credit for working outside of his or on his own. I think Daboll, if you want to go with the schemer, the play caller, Daboll's name to keep an eye out for. Nathaniel Hackett is not the play caller in Green Bay, but he's got a lot of buzz around him from the NFL perspective. In the same way that you kind of saw Matt LaFleur get that level of interest. So, which of course he comes from the LaFleur tree now. I would interview him, and I'll make this note, by the way, right now. Head coaching hires are tough. The ones we think are good sometimes don't work out. The ones we think are bad sometimes do work out, because the stuff that gets you hired in most cases, play calling for Brian Daboll, you got to do so much more than that as a head coach. You got to be that team's leader, and that leader of men doesn't always work out. Some guys are better coordinators. Right, Wade Phillips? All right, Eric Bieniemy next up here for the Chiefs. I'm a bit confused why he doesn't have a head coaching gig. Maybe he doesn't interview well. Maybe it's the off-the-field stuff from his time at Colorado. He'd be on my list, though. Byron Leftwich next up here, the Bucs offensive coordinator. Here's the tough part. Is it Tom Brady by himself, or is Leftwich actually good? It's tough to answer that. McDaniels was a disaster as a head coach. The only one would find us to hire him. So he'd be on my list. I think I'd rather have Daboll, though, overall. The dark horse name here is Mike McDaniel. If you want to hire a kind of also former member of the Dan Quinn coaching tree, smart, intelligent person, hasn't done that much as a play caller. He's still very young, probably too early. I think that's your dark horse name to keep an eye out for, whether it's for Dallas or even across the NFL. All right, defensive minds here. How about Matt Eberflus? You guys remember him, right? The former Cowboys linebackers coach, now the DC in Indy. Finally got a DC job, and overall I think he's done a good job with the Colts. There aren't that many DC names I love. Eberflus, though, with his ties to the organization, should be on there. The DC, I think, at least one of them, who is most worthy of another head coaching gig beyond Dan Quinn, is Todd Bowles. The Jets' tenure didn't go well. I think he's a fantastic defensive coordinator. So I would look at Bowles pretty heavily if in the event you're doing a real head coaching search. Another name here, Dennis Allen. Maybe next in line in the event Sean Payton never leaves New Orleans. Allen, I think, is well beyond getting a second chance. He has done a fantastic job for years now elevating the play of that Saints defense. That's a name I would certainly keep an eye out for. All right, next up is Gerard Mayo, the linebackers coach for New England. I think he gets a DC job somewhere this cycle, maybe with Dan Quinn. Denver, potentially? Throwing that one out there as a hypothetical. I'm not sure he's ready, but a lot of good hype around Mayo from NFL media. Leslie Frazier's getting interviews as well. I don't love you can throw Raheem Morris in this conversation as well. I think you can do better than Leslie Frazier. Here's the question, though. This is the question of the day, if we're being honest here. If in the event Mike McCarthy gets fired, do you trust Jerry Jones to make a good hire? Do you trust him to do it? Y for yes, N for no. Be honest with me in the comments. Going to be a lot of N's. All right, other names who are getting interviews. Brian Callahan. I'll make note the Bill Callahan-Cowboys relationship ended terribly. He's not coming back as your O-line coach unless maybe a hire, Brian Callahan. Kevin O'Connell, the next up in the Sean McVay coaching tree. Seems to always work, so okay. Aaron Glenn is not ready yet, but he is on the rise as the Lions defensive coordinator. Jonathan Gannon. Is it Gannon or Gagnon? Gannon. Like Cannon. Thank you, Jeremy. I don't know why he's getting interviews. I don't think his Eagles defense was that good this year. But he's young, promising, and that's how it works. Same way, why is Kellen Moore getting interviews? He's young, promising. And then Jim Caldwell, former head coach Lions. Makes sense for the Jags. Not so much as far as I'm concerned for the Dallas Cowboys.